Hi everyone, it's Monique with MD Consulting. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. This is the second topic that I am presenting in June for the Love Yourself Project. We already presented, and hopefully you caught the other two videos, a segment under their Healthy Body series, which was Clean Eating Basics, which helped busy executives and people with just a crazy lifestyle learn how to eat better on the run. So now this topic for today is under the Healthy Business segment, and there will be two videos that go along with this topic. So this is the first on-demand video, and this is called Shifting Your Career Trajectory. So I'm going to spend about the next 30 minutes talking to you and giving you some tips about what to do if you have decided to change your career path. This is for anybody that is newly retired, wanting to own a business, a corporate executive that has switched careers, anybody who is in transition with your career. So a couple of things that we will be talking about today. We will be identifying your personal values and determining how that fits into your new career path. Also clarifying and integrating your work values, because that's very important also if you're shifting careers. We will talk about how to create a snapshot of your ideal future, how to assess your compensation requirements, and then how to articulate your value to a potential employer with the use of accomplishment statements. Now, before we get started, there's a little bit of housekeeping. Just like with the other topic, we have several pieces of content that accompany this. Now, if you missed the first topic, that's fine. The format is similar. You will have two on-demand videos. So this is the first one. And then you will also have a workshop that goes with each video. So there will be a workshop after part one, which is this video. And then after the second video, there will be a second workshop. The workshops will take place next week, and you will be able to register for those the same way that you were able to find out about these videos. You have a link that you access, and you were able to sign up for reminders of all the different events for the June topics. The workshop is very interactive. So after you watch this video, you'll go through the workbook, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And then I want you to bring all of your questions or concerns to the workshop. It's interactive, it's designed to answer your questions, to have further discussion about this topic, because today it's just going to be some very basic information. So make sure that you sign up for the workshop and come on time. We are limiting enrollment to only a certain number of people because we want to keep it very interactive, and I want to make sure I have time to work with everybody. So please register as soon as possible. The workbook is the third piece of content. Now that can be downloaded in the same place where you accessed this video. The workbook is for your benefit only, does not have to be turned in. I don't have to see it. It's completely confidential. So you can put in it whatever you want. You can follow the exercises that I have in there and then keep it to yourself, but bring it to the workshop, because that way you'll have something to reference when we're talking about everything. Also, if there's anything in the workbook that does not apply to you, then that's fine, just skip it. I want to make it as customizable as possible for you to, follow this content and work in the workbook. So whatever doesn't apply, don't worry about it. Okay, a little bit about me, in case you missed the first topic. I am an executive coach. I work with very busy, driven executives on a daily basis. So what I'm talking to you about today is career transition. Many of my clients are transitioning either out of their corporate careers altogether and owning businesses, so they're completely transitioning, or they're still in the corporate sector and they're wanting to go for a promotion or they've made some other kind of shift in their industry or into a different industry, or they are business owners that are trying to make a shift either with their services or a different type of business, something like that, or they are newly retired and trying to determine what to do with the rest of their life, what the future looks like for them. So in this topic today, we're going to talk about some things that you should consider as you're making these transitions. So the first piece of information that I have all my clients look at is their personal values. I put them through an exercise that has them identify their personal values. Personal values define who you are as an individual. They help you prioritize your life. It's easier to prioritize your life once you know your values, okay? Because then everything kind of falls into place with very little decision making because you already know what's important to you. Your personal values must be integrated into your professional life. I have seen corporate leaders take a new position without looking at their personal values first, and then they find that there's not an alignment, and then they're not happy. So in order to be happy, you have to identify your personal values. And also knowing your values helps you to live in integrity. Okay, work values is the next piece. Yes, work values are different than personal values. Work values are more about what kind of things are important to you at your job. And it's important to clarify and define those work values. How are you going to make a career transition if you're not really sure what's important to you? You'll end up in another position that you're not happy with. So one of the exercises in the workbook will be helping you define these values, your personal values and your work values. Work values must be integrated with personal values in order to determine your career trajectory. You have to include both. If you have a job or a career where your work values are being met 100%, but your personal values are not, you will not be happy. So you have to integrate both. And this is one of the things I help my clients with in coaching is how do you integrate both? Knowing your work values also helps you set boundaries at work. It's very important. They are your guidelines for how you are going to behave and how others should behave around you. Your ideal future. So this is always an interesting exercise, and we will be going through this in the workbook. So again, bring it to the workshop if you want some more personalized help with this. But a snapshot of your ideal future is about asking yourself a series of questions to get really clear about your career path. Your ideal career, as we have already talked about, should integrate your work and your personal values, your boundaries. You should be able to determine what areas you're willing to compromise in just a little bit. Sometimes there's some wiggle room. We don't have to create a solid structured framework for what we want. Sometimes we can shift a little bit. And then you need to determine what kind of risks are involved with your career choice and how do you mitigate those risks. There's absolutely nothing wrong with risks because life is a risk, but you have to mitigate them. You have to come up with a plan B and sometimes even a plan C in order to make sure that you're not going to run into trouble in the future. What about compensation? Let's talk about that for a minute. You really need to determine your acceptable range of compensation. Now, even doing volunteer work is a career. It can be for many people, especially if you're retiring and you choose to do volunteer work. Now, just because you're not getting paid for it doesn't mean you don't have the right to seek compensation, okay? So determining what is acceptable for you. Maybe as a volunteer, your form of compensation is a letter of reference or a thank you. It could be as simple as that. but you really need to determine that ahead of time. If you're shifting careers or you're going for a promotion, then you want to come up with a range, a dollar range of what is acceptable for you, so that you have something, some framework in your mind, so that, and you know what to ask for. Now, when you are having compensation conversations, it is really effective to use sound bites. And what I mean by sound bites, and the whole reason I'm bringing it up, is because people are really uncomfortable with compensation conversations. They don't feel comfortable asking for money, for more money, for a package. So I try to help in coaching by helping them create sound bites, which are little tiny phrases that have a very big impact. And these sound bites you can use with potential employers. In interviews, you can use them in conversations. If you are going for an internal promotion, you can talk with the internal leadership about compensation by using these sound bites, and they're very, very powerful. So I'll say more about sound bites in the workshop also, and you'll have a place in your workbook to start creating some so that you can get some practice. What is your value? And this is an area where people struggle also, and this ties in with compensation. Many times people do not want to ask for compensation or higher compensation because they don't think they're worth it. They do not realize the value that they bring to their employer. So I work with executives, helping them understand their value, and I do this with a technique called accomplishment statements. Now, accomplishment statements are statements of things that you have accomplished throughout your career, and they start with an action verb like delivered, integrated, interviewed, actions, and then they're followed with one statement, and it is tied to a metric, because you always want to try to tie in a measurement to your accomplishment statement so that your potential employer knows that you did this and its impact was this. And the impact could be in dollars, it could be in people, any type of measurement. Now, in the workshop, we will also be covering accomplishment statements, and I'll help you develop your own. You'll have some practice in the workbook, but we'll go more into detail during the workshop. So I always have my clients make a list of their accomplishment statements. We work together to clean up that list and make sure they are very succinct. And then again, each statement begins with an action verb, and we link each accomplishment statement to a metric or dollar amount. Then when you get into an interview or a conversation, you have a list of these that you can pull from. Or when you're developing your resume, or when you're updating your social media profiles, your LinkedIn profile, you want to have an entire list of accomplishment statements so that you can pull from them whenever you need to. And those determine your value. Once you have your accomplishment statements, it is usually so much easier to identify your compensation package, what you want to ask for, because you already know your value. So then you don't have a problem asking for a certain amount of money. Okay, so I know that was quick and it was a lot of information, but like I said, the workshop and the workbook will help you go into more detail about what I just talked to you about today. Now, being that I'm a coach, there's always some next steps. There's always an action item. So just like in the first topic on nutrition, there are some action items after this video, and here they are. I am speaking to you from a very brief slide deck, so you can feel free to download that. It's available for you so that you'll have the bullet points that I spoke to you from today. Download the workbook. And that's the important piece, because that's going to be your personal documentation of the work we're going to be doing here. Complete module 1 in the workbook before attending the first workshop. And then register and attend the next workshop, the first one, and come prepared with your questions from this video, from the workbook. And like I said, it's going to be very interactive, so you will learn from other people also. Then listen to the second video on this topic, because there are two parts. So this is part one. Listen to the on-demand video part two, okay? And that will give you more context, and then there will be a workshop following that, a part two workshop that you can go to. Okay, so I'm really glad you joined me today. I'm really glad to be able to give you these little tidbits, as quick as it may have been, but I'm looking very forward to seeing you at the workshop. So please register, and I will see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.